Okay, so the herringbone stitch has been causing a few problems. So I've got some nice chunky yarn here, and I'm just going to finish off the first row, and then we're going to take a closer, slower look at the back row. Okay, so as you know with the herringbone you get these nice diagonal lines going all across, and the aim is for the second row for the backwards is to get them coming the other way, so you get these lovely chevrons like the backbone of a fish. So you go through the side loop, then through your next chain, or your next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through all 3 loops. So this is the single crochet way. There is a double crochet method, but I think this one just looks kind of, I just like this one much better. Okay, so through that side loop there, so I just pull my hook back out. This is the side loops. Every stitch will have 3 parts. You've got your top loops, this is the second loop, and then you've got your side loop here. It's this side loop that we're going to be working through. So hook through there. Unless you keep your tension loose, that can be quite awkward. But the trick with this stitch is to try and keep that tension loose, and it will just get much easier. And then pull through all 3 stitches. So it's just like a single crochet, except you're making that extra part with the side loop. Other than that, you make it just like a single crochet. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple more stitches and then we'll get onto that backwards loop. So try and keep your stitches as loose as possible. It's quite difficult to do that with this chunky yarn, but at least you can see how things are done. A bit easier. So through that side loop. And yarn over. So you'll always have 3 loops on your hook with a stitch, whether you're doing the front row or the back row. And pull through all 3 loops. So you've got that really nice diagonal look going on. Okay, so let's turn and let's tackle this awkward back row. So we start with a chain 1. Now first stitch, straight away we're going through back loops. So I'm just going to pull my arm to the front while we get the hook in the right place. So from back to front you're going through both those top loops. So you see this row of top loops we've got across here. Okay. So front to back, there's your hook. Then yarn over and pull your hook through. I find it easier to kind of roll my hook through. It just works slightly better. Then yarn over and pull through both loops. Okay, so if you turn it over, it's just going to look like a normal stitch. Okay, so the next stitch we're going to work through the side stitch. That side loop, sorry. So I'm going to pull my yarn back so it's not in the way, and I'm going to go through the side loop, which is this one here. I'm going to put my hook through there. Then from back to front, I'm going to put it through the top loops of the next stitch, which are here. Okay. Now I'm going to get my yarn again. It's kind of a yarn under this rather than a yarn over. Then pull your yarn through, and this is where the tension is it's useful to keep it loose. I find it really hard to keep my tension loose with yarn this thick, which is why I'm having trouble pulling it through. But I do that, and there we go. So I just turn it over to the right side. You can see I've got the 3 parts of the stitch again. Top loop, this one here, and our side loop here. So even though we're working for the back, we are still working in that side loop. Okay, so I'm going to let my yarn drop round to the front, then turn to the back, and in that side loop I'm going to push my hook through. Then we're going to go through the top loops of the next stitch, which is this one here. Okay. So from back to front through those loops. like so. Okay, so the front is here, this is the back. Okay, so your work's going to bend a bit. This row is quite hard on the hands. And then yarn over and just roll your hook through. Then yarn over, twist the hook round and through all 3 loops. You can hear my yarn creaking because it's quite tight. Okay, and then you can see those back diagonal stitches coming through, and they're the opposite of the row below. So you get this lovely chevron. You won't see it as close as you do in the actual square because it's just so chunky. Okay, so again, from the back, I'm going through that side loop, which is here. Oops. So there we go, that's the easy part. Then we've got to go through the top loops of the next stitch. So I'm just going to drop the yarn so it's in front, and then I'm going to push my hook through the top loops from back to front of the next stitch, which like that. Then pick up your yarn again, get the yarn over and just roll your hook through. This row is really slow and tough. It's a lot easier if you can keep your tension loose. And it does make your stitches shrink by quite a bit. So if you end up with a nice long starting chain, you're not going to end up with it as long after a couple of rows. It really does shrink up. You can see that's now coming through. And those nice diagonals. And we just carry on that way, all the way from row 2. So I'm going to drop my yarn in front, I turn, and through that side loop at the back. Then my next set of loops to go through are these here. So from back to front, push my hook through. You can see it's all kind of contorting the whole piece. Okay, but don't worry, it's all going to straighten itself out. Then yarn over, roll your hook through, and I've made my stitches so tight. See, even when you've been crocheting for years, you still manage to do this. There we go. I don't do myself any favours. But there we go, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, then when you turn it round, you see the effect coming through. And you're just repeating rows 2 and 3. So row 3 is just a repeat of the foundation row but in the actual stitches. You get to go through the side loop on the front, which is so much easier. But I think the look of this stitch is worth it. Not sure I'd use it too often though. Okay, so looking from the back, top loop, that's the main loop of the stitch, and side loop. Okay, so you should always see the 3 parts. You won't see 3 parts in your first single crochet. I'll just undo back to there and I'll show you what I mean actually. Should have said this at the beginning. Oops, I pulled that last stitch out there. Never mind. So you turn, you chain 1. Okay, and then the first single crochet you do as a back loop. You're not going to see 3 parts to the stitch because we haven't gone through a side loop. So you've only got 2 parts. You've got the top loop and this side. You're going through this second part, which is, we're going to consider our side loop for the single crochet. You'll get the 3 parts once you start after this stitch. Okay, but if your very first single crochet, you've got the top loop and then this diagonal piece. This is your side loop for the single crochet. Once you start the herringbone stitches, you'll have the 3 stitches. Okay. So yeah, do the herringbone stitch from the back, drop your yarn to the front, just through that side loop, Okay, through the top loops only of the next stitch. Then pick up your yarn again, pull through. It's kind of like rolling your hook through rather than just pulling it through as normal. Then yarn over and pull through all through those loops. See, and now you can see the 3 parts. That's because we use the side stitch. So it's just that very first single crochet that only has 2 parts to the stitch. After that we'll always have these 3 parts. So top loop, kind of, that'll be the normal loop, and then the side loop. We always use this 3rd part. Okay, so I hope that has helped you with the back row of the herringbone. And I shall see you next time for the next stitch. Bye for now.